Opening an ASP account could be one of the smartest steps you take towards buying your first home in Finland. You do not need a large salary to begin. You can just start with 50 euros, like I did. But there is a time requirement. So if you wait until you are ready to start viewing houses, you may already be starting too late. Hello, and welcome back to Imole Candid. If you are new here, this channel shares practical information about work, studies, business, and everyday life in Finland. Today I will explain what an ASP account is, how much you need to save, the benefits it gives you, and why I believe you should open one early. I will also share how starting with just 50 euros eventually helped my family buy our first home. A few months after moving to Finland, I opened an ASP account. At that time, I was a student with very little income, and I was still trying to find my feet in Finland. My rent was less than 250 euros per month. I was certainly not dreaming about a house, not to talk about being ready to buy a house. But the minimum amount I could save towards the ASP account was 50 euros. So I made a simple decision. I decided to start treating that 50 euros as part of my rent. So instead of thinking that my housing cost was only 250 euros, I told myself it was 300 euros. The difference was that 250 euros went towards the home I was living in at that time, while 50 euros went towards a home I could own in the future. As time passed, my financial situation improved and I was able to save more. Later, my wife and I were able to use our savings to move forward with buying our first home. And last year, we moved into our own detached home, what is called an omakoti in Finland. That journey did not begin when we started viewing houses. It began years earlier when I was still a student with very little income and decided to save that first 50 euros. So what exactly is an ASP account? ASP is a government-supported savings system for people planning to buy their first home in Finland. You open the account through a bank and save gradually towards your future home. When you meet the ASP requirements, you qualify for the ASP home loan, additional interest on your savings, government interest support, and a free government guarantee for part of the loan. However, having an ASP account does not guarantee that the bank will give you a mortgage. The bank will still consider your income, your expenses, your existing debts, and of course, your ability to repay the loan. Under the current rules, you can save between 50 and about 1,500 euros during any qualifying month. You need at least 20 qualifying monthly deposits before the bank can grant you a normal ASP loan. You do not have to save every single month. You can take a break and continue later. But any month in which you do not make a qualifying deposit will not count towards the 20 required deposits. The minimum savings period can be completed in just over 18 months. That is why starting early matters. You may not be ready to buy a house today, but while you are building a career, improving your income, deciding where you want to live, you can also complete the required saving period, just like I did. When the resources eventually come together, you will not then have to start the waiting period from the beginning. Now, you must be wondering, how much do I need to save? You generally need savings equal to at least 10% of the purchase price of the home. For example, if the home costs about 200,000 euros, it means you need at least 20,000 euros in savings. The remaining 180,000 euros could potentially be covered by an ASP loan, and if necessary, an additional housing loan. But again, the bank must approve the amount. Having 20,000 euros does not automatically mean that the bank will lend you 180,000 euros. Your income and expenses must show that you can afford the mortgage repayments and other costs of owning the property. The ASP loan, supported by your savings, is generally calculated by multiplying your accepted ASP savings by 9. And so this will mean that if you have 20,000 euros in savings, you are eligible to get about 180,000 euros. But there are also maximum ASP interest subsidy loan amounts based on where the home is located. In some municipalities, cities like Helsinki or Tampere, the current maximum amount is about 230,000 euros. In other municipalities, the maximum amount is 160,000 euros. This is not necessarily the maximum price of the home that you can buy. If the ASP loan is not enough, the bank may offer you an additional loan. The final amount will still depend on your savings, the location of your home, and how much the bank believes you can afford. So you might ask, what happens if you are buying with your spouse? You can have separate ASP accounts and later buy a home together. You can also save through a joint ASP account. But both people must qualify as first-time home buyers if both want to use the ASP benefits. The maximum ASP interest subsidy loan is also higher when two eligible ASP savers buy together. So this means that if you are buying with your spouse, then you get a higher loan than what was originally stated, 230,000 euros. The combined maximum is 345,000 euros in Helsinki, Tampere, or Turku. In other municipalities, the combined maximum is 240,000 euros. I'll put links in the description below that can further explain which municipalities give you X amount of euros. But remember that this is not an automatic entitlement. Another important benefit of the ASP loan is that you are not permanently tied to the bank where you open your ASP account. You can begin saving with one bank and later receive your mortgage with another bank. So this means, for instance, you can begin saving with Nordea and later decide to go with OP Bank. Or you can begin saving with OP Bank and later decide to go with Nordea. When you are ready to buy a home, you should still request mortgage offers from different banks. And I'll speak about this in upcoming videos. This means you can open the account now without knowing which bank will eventually give you the mortgage, without knowing what house you want to buy, and also without actually having the amount that you really want for the house. But you remain responsible, obviously, for repaying the loan. So you must be asking the big question, who can open an ASP account? Under the current rules, you must be at least 15 years old. There is no longer a maximum age limit. You must also qualify as a first-time home buyer. Generally, that means that you must not previously have owned 50% or more of a home. Property ownership outside of Finland can also affect your eligibility. This is especially important for immigrants. If you previously owned a house or apartment in another country, explain that clearly to the bank. So should you open an ASP account now? You should seriously consider it if you hope to buy your first home in Finland. Again, you do not need a large salary. You do not need to know which home you will buy. You do not need to know exactly when you will buy it. And you do not need to know which bank will eventually give you the mortgage. You can begin with 50 euros. You can increase that amount as your income improves. You can take a break when necessary. And you can transfer the account when you find a better mortgage offer. I mean, this ASP is so nice. But you can't go back and recover qualifying months you lost because you delayed starting. So if you can afford it, start with 50 euros from this month. For me, that first 50 euros do not look like much, but it definitely gave me a place to begin. And when the opportunity to buy a home eventually came, the account, the savings, and the required saving period were already there. This video is only the beginning of my home buying series. In upcoming videos, I will explain the process of buying a home in Finland and the important things you should look out for. I will talk about mortgage applications, comparing banks, condition inspections, transfer tax, and the additional costs that many first-time buyers may not expect. I'll also share more of our personal experience of buying an omakotitalo in Finland. So if you're planning to buy a home in Finland, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss upcoming videos. The most important message in this video is simple. Do not wait until you're ready to buy a home before you start planning to buy one. Start early, even if you can only begin with 50 euros. Because when your income, your savings, and the right opportunity finally come together, you do not want time to be the only thing holding you back. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to Imole Candid, and share it with someone who hopes to buy their first home in Finland. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.